Hi, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of We've Got You Covered, your short-term insurance podcast.
Back again.
There we go, number 2. Obviously, with me is my friend, colleague, and co-host, Uzi Feinstein.
Hello, hello.
And obviously, we wanted to thank you so much for your support and your kind words that you've shared with us after our first episode.
Yeah, just unbelievable. Walking around my community, even people coming up to me and saying, "Sure, Uzi, yeah, podcaster these days." I'm like, "Yeah, Joe Rogan." Even though we're talking about insurance, not too exciting, but really, we got amazing feedback and amazing views. So thank you.
Thank you for
so
your
much.
support. We really appreciate it. Now, let's talk about today's episode. Today, we're talking about insuring your car and why doing it right is so important.
Vehicles.
Yeah, because these are high-risk assets, and this is where a lot of people do it quickly to get it done, but then when there's a claim, we've got stumbling blocks and issues, and we wanted to touch on why that happens.
100%, Liné. And I think also when it comes to vehicles, I would say for myself and from what I've seen within my friend group, usually when you, as a young adult, when you're getting introduced to the insurance world, it's usually when you buy your first vehicle. Yeah. And that's the first time you're like, oh my word, like now I have to think about insurance. Yeah. What do I do? Do I Google? Do I ask my parents? Do I ask friends? And this is kind of, in a way, an introduction as a young adult to the insurance world. So we both thought it would be a fantastic place to start. Talk, as Liné says, about where clients go wrong, where they go right, and the different cover that you can expect.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you never taught, right? Yeah. So we go through school and we learn about geography and maths and English and Afrikaans and Zulu and all those wonderful things, but nobody tells you the practical things about, hey, being an adult, you're going to have to buy and insure a car, and this is what's important. So I think there's, and people tend to look for, understandably, the cheapest cover, but they don't necessarily know the pitfalls that come with that. And I think that's kind of what we're going to try and cover here.
100%. And if I could add to that, not only the cheapest cover, but usually when people are purchasing a vehicle, it's at the time that they're going to collect the vehicle from the showroom.
That's when they're going insurance,
so they actually want it very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like a stumbling block for you to just get into that beautiful new vehicle.
Yeah, I just want it done. Just give me cover so I can take the car.
100%. So I think let's dive into it, Liné. I think we all agree it's an important conversation. And I think a good place to start is the different types of cover when it comes to a vehicle and what that includes.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways you can cover your vehicle, depending on the age of the vehicle, what you're going to use it for, and. But generally, you're going to insure it comprehensively. And as you know, comprehensive means that it's covered for kind of any eventuality, accidents, third-party liability, if your car is hijacked or stolen, those kind of things. It covers a very wide range of cover.
Okay.
Then you get the other options, things like third-party fire and theft, which, it will cover the vehicle for any third-party damage. So you've got an old Skodonk and you drive into a Golf GTI. I mean, and you're liable for the cost of that vehicle's repair. But it will also then cover you for fire, so if the vehicle was to burn or if it is stolen.
Correct. And I think also, just as you're talking, to think about the amount of vehicles in South Africa that are uninsured. Unfortunately,
that's it.
It's just the reality of living in South Africa, just like electricity, potholes, water. It's one of these realities we all live with. A big reality to understand is that sometimes it's not you as a client that you need to be so concerned about.
Correct.
It's the other people. Are they going to bash into you or you're going to cause damage to them? Oftentimes, I think also as a new client getting your vehicle, you're concerned about, am I a bad driver? Is someone going to hit into me? Well, you know what, Uzi, actually, I don't want comprehensive cover and I don't even know if I need cover. Hold on. God forbid you hit someone on the street, on the pavement, whatever it is. That is a claim that no one can deal with. No one has 10 bar, 20 bar as a young adult sitting around for a third-party legal suit, God forbid, in case of serious injury or death.
Yeah.
So I think, as Liné started with, is comprehensive cover should be a non-negotiable, in my opinion.
In my opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion. Of course, there are options, third-party liability, fire and theft, etc. But for me, in my vehicles, comprehensive cover is super, super important.
Well, just based on the South African landscape.
Yeah.
You know, the roads we travel on, the infrastructure is not great. We all know this. You've got potholes, you've got all kinds of things. And we'll talk about, you know, the dangers come with potholes a bit later.
Yeah.
But potholes, we've got crime. You've got a lot of people who don't drive properly. And it's just the load shedding. We haven't had load shedding in a while, but how many robots just aren't working, you know?
Correct.
And all of these things are factors that increase the risk and make vehicles a very high risk commodity. So that brings us to another thing. You know, people are often premium chasing when it comes to vehicles. And I know a lot of clients get very upset with us because, well, you know, it's ridiculously expensive. Yes, but think about what the insurer has to provide cover for. What are the, if you look at the chances of your house catching fire and burning down versus the chances of you being in an accident, you know, the odds are stacked against you. And there are ways to work around that premium hounding.
Correct.
But you know, you just have to look at it and be objective and go, okay, it is a higher risk thing.
100%. Beautiful. I think what I would like to do as well is go back to when I was at around 18, 19, and I bought a vehicle and had to go on cover. So dealing with the dealership, great guy actually, but I'm dealing with the dealership and I've picked up my vehicle, I've gotten a couple quotes, gone for the test drive, and now it's crunch time, okay? The dealer calls me, he says, okay, this Thursday, you can come pick up the vehicle, the finance is prepared, etc. Walk me through it. So I call my broker. How do we go about it? We just said comprehensive cover is super important. You want to make sure it's properly covered.
If there's finance, it becomes a requirement.
Okay, so talk me through it.
Yeah.
Talk me through it.
So there's a couple of things you have to factor in. If you're placing a vehicle on cover and there is finance, you have to have comprehensive insurance. A lot of people, I know what they do is they'll take out insurance and then cancel it once they have seen the finance house, the confirmation of cover, you know, which is a very dangerous game to play. Yeah. So we strongly advise against doing that. But there are a couple of things that the insurer needs to be aware of. And we, as a brokerage and most brokerages, will have a form that the client needs to fill out, which is an absolute pain in the neck. I know you just want to phone and say, here's the OTP or the invoice, just add the vehicle to cover. But there's a reason why we do it, because we need certain information, input from you as the client to ensure that the vehicle is insured correctly. Now, what we look at is year model, make, model, engine capacity, all of those variants, because you could say to me it's a Nissan NP200 1.6. Okay, there are 4 different variants, and each variant has its own retail value, and a vehicle is being insured for retail value, so you need to make sure that it's insured for the right retail value. So those kind of that kind of information is incredibly important.
100%, and I just want to echo this. So again, my dealer at the time, he sent me what's called the OTP, an offer to purchase, which is basically before you get the invoice, right? And on that offer to purchase, you can actually send that to your broker. On it, as I said, you'll have the make and model of the vehicle, all the variants such as engine number, VIN number, the year, okay, all these very important things. On there will also, by the way, be some accessories.
Potentially. The other thing before we get to that, is the M&M code. Now this, if you can get this for your broker or your insurer, that's a game changer. Because M&M code is like an ID number for a vehicle.
100%.
So the broker or the insurer can go look on their system and see exactly what make and model it is. And then it gives them the current retail value for that vehicle. So you are insured for insuring the correct vehicle. Because if you don't, you have a claim and you've been underpaying premiums, that's going to be an issue at claim stage. But then we add accessories.
So, okay, I will come back to accessories. But you mentioned something there also very important, which I get a lot of questions like this all the time, is how much am I insuring my vehicle for?
Retail value.
Okay, so can you just explain that?
So retail value is determined by units like TransUnion. They've got a system that regulates that. And the vehicle depreciates. I think every month the value depreciates. There are systems that are built into, most insurers' backup systems that determines it. In the event of an accident or a total loss, the insurer will look at the retail value at the time of the loss, and that would be the determining settlement amount or the determining amount for deciding how much money they're able to spend on the repair of the vehicle. To make it economical.
Perfect.
You can also insure your vehicle for agreed value now. Agreed value is, say, for instance, you've got a collectible car, something that's not standard or not found. If I look on the TransUnion website, I'll see this car is valued at 20,000 Rand, but the actual value, because it's a collectible, sits at 400,000 Rand.
100%.
In that case, your insurer would require a valuation certificate to show the actual value. So you can do it that way, but that's not the norm. Norm, everyday car is insured at retail value.
Perfect. Okay, so I think what we've established is we're insuring the car, again, our opinion, what we suggest, at a retail value. Within that, to send to your broker or to put on the vehicle needs analysis, as you spoke about, will be the make model, the VIN engine number, M&M code, super important. Now, that's all inclusive in the insurance of the vehicle. I want to talk about some things such as like add-ons. I mentioned now accessories. Is that automatically included in the insurance of the vehicle, or is that separate?
That is separate. So accessories, for clarification, is anything that is not standard, factory fitted on the vehicle. You buy a car and before you drive out of the dealership, they put smash and grab on the windows for you, and you asked for a tow bar. And in certain cases, like with BMW, if we use them as an example, you can buy the unpack kit, you can use the competition pack, you can get halogen headlights, heads-up display, all kinds of things. And these things all come at a specific price. Now, if you don't specify those on your policy and pay the premium for each accessory, in the event of a loss, the insurer is not going to pay you for that. They have to be specified. They have to be added on, because the retail value is determined. Here's the shell. This is what it costs. Now, one thing that's exceptionally important when it comes to accessories, most people will say to you, my car is stock standard. But the one thing almost every car in South Africa has is smash and grab. Almost nobody insures that unless you point it out to them. But why that's important is you live in South Africa, you stop at a robot, somebody smashes your window. We'll happily replace that window for you. But if you haven't specified your smash and grab, the insurer is not going to pay to have the smash and grab added back on. You're going to have that issue. You're going to have to pay for that out of pocket. So it's important to remember these things. What I do find that is very interesting is when people buy second-hand cars. Now, this is where it gets tricky. When I buy from a dealership, it's a brand new car, I have a full breakdown.
Beautifully done for you.
But you're buying a second-hand car.
Yeah, you're right.
You just get a price, and you don't know what's on there. So in those instances, a lot of people are going, okay, I paid 200,000 for it. I'm happy to accept whatever the loss is. I haven't paid extra for any extra. But what you can do, and what we would suggest you do, is take it to the dealership, have them evaluate it, and give you a list of everything that's non-factory fitted. And then they can probably, or you can go and obtain quotes, or the dealership can give you quotes for replacement values, and you can add those things.
Yeah.
But very important to do.
I must say also, Liné, like having, chatting to you now, it really brings back the points we were talking about in the last podcast of insurance is a relationship. Because I can't tell you how often, whether it's a new vehicle, oftentimes it's existing clients that just WhatsApp me or email me, whatever it is, and say, Uzi, please add the Mahindra 2025. I'm like, okay, I get it. I want to add it for you, but I'm going to send you a vehicle needs analysis. There's a lot more questions we need, and only you as the client are able to provide it. And that's what we were speaking about last time, that it's a relationship. We can't just go and just add quickly and skip steps, because unfortunately, it's all about claims. And when claims come,
exactly that. You don't have to fight with each other, and I get you're super excited, you want your vehicle, you're sitting at the dealership, and most of the times, let's use this example and say that I'm at the dealership and they're asking me for insurance and I haven't arranged it. Fine, you send us the invoice, we'll add your vehicle onto cover, but then we give you 7 days within which to fill in that vehicle needs analysis, because we need your input of, I want this, I don't want that, I have made this decision. I can't decide that on your behalf. It's quite simple. It's just not
beautiful.
But then tell me, Uzi, what are the kind of options that will be on the vehicle needs analysis that the client would have to look at?
Yeah, so beautiful. I think some things that come to mind are driver. Okay, so oftentimes it could just be you as the client driving it, but maybe your wife is driving it, your husband, maybe a child is driving it. It is very important to specify who the regular driver is as well as who the owner is, because that could be the same person or it could be different. Again, when it comes to claims, and unfortunately, God forbid, if it's a write-off and it's a very large claim, the insurance company most likely will look into who was driving the vehicle at the time and who was the regular driver and was that noted. So that for me is very, very important.
Before you move on, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Very important to look at as well is speak to your insurer and see if you have a named policy. Because if they have to specify the regular driver, and that means that only that person is allowed to drive that vehicle. We sell policies that are unnamed. So anybody can drive the vehicle as long as they have a valid driver's license. But some insurers will only allow you to have a person drive the vehicle that has been specified on the policy.
Correct.
Sorry,
so I love that. Very, very important when it comes to specifying the driver and the owner, etc. Another point that comes to mind is security on the vehicle. So we know, living in South Africa, another reality that we have is theft and hijack. And it happens, unfortunately, quite a lot. So each insurer will be different when it comes to their requirements and security requirements. But please speak to your broker and make sure the vehicle that you're either adding or purchasing is compliant with those security requirements.
Importantly is most insurers, if they require tracking devices, etc., they will usually give you 7 days within which to comply. But ask those questions up front. So if we look, just to name and shame a few, you're buying a Toyota Hilux or a Toyota Land Cruiser or a Toyota Prado, you're going to need a minimum of 2 tracking devices. Those are exceptionally high-risk vehicles, and the insurers are going, two tracking devices, nothing less. One must be a GPS and one must be a radio device. If you don't have that, and in the event of a claim, they are not going to entertain your claim at all. Other vehicles only require 1 tracking device. Other vehicles are just a normal alarm and immobilizer.
So on that point, Liné, Liné and I are very, we're in this world of insurance. So we're very scared or skeptical when it comes to advising clients, listen, make sure your security is correct. Having said that, there are some vehicles that, depending on your insurer, will not need, as Liné just said, a tracker or 2 trackers. And it could be, without mentioning names, that you're buying a vehicle from a dealer who automatically puts in trackers. And it's important to check with your broker, why pay that extra money every month if the vehicle doesn't need a tracker for insurance? If you want that for yourself, and you want to track it on your device, God forbid, in case something happens, by all means. But if you're just doing it, and oftentimes I speak to clients that they don't even know, because I look at the invoice or the offer to purchase, and part of it came with the tracker. So it is a nice thing to bear in mind.
The other thing to look at when it comes to tracking devices is to check with your broker or your insurer if, say your vehicle doesn't require a tracking device, will they waive your excess in the event that you have a tracking device fitted? Because there are some insurers in some instances where that happens. If you have a theft or a hijack, but you've had a tracking device fitted, they will not charge you an excess. So these are the things you have to weigh up. And that's why we're saying is like, yes, you're excited about buying a car and the insurance is the last thing on your mind and the last thing you want to talk about.
100%.
But it is actually really important.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the other things that you can add onto your cover. Let's talk, besides the security that is exceptionally important, but you've got things like car hire, credit shortfall cover, roadside assist, those kind of things. Do you want to run us through some of those?
Sure. I would like to start personally, and maybe you can describe some of the rest. But credit shortfall, which was very interesting to me personally when I bought my first vehicle, and I did it through finance, and I never heard of credit shortfall. There is another name for it on some policies. I can't remember it.
Yeah, it's like almost like credit guarantee or
Something
something.
like that.
They hide it.
Yeah, so but
and sometimes in the finance they hide it. Yeah.
So just bear it in mind. But I would like to give the basic definition, and then please chime in when you can. But the basic definition is, if the retail value of your vehicle is less than the amount you as a client still owe to the bank or the finance company, right? Then that shortfall is not going to be covered unless you select it on your policy and there's special insurance for that. As an example, I go and I buy a vehicle for 500,000 Rand, right? Now, on that 500,000 Rand, the retail value of it goes up, for instance, and it's now 550,000 Rand. At the time of the accident, we all know you drive out of a dealership, the vehicle automatically
loses 50,000 Rand.
Right. So right now, God forbid, if I have an accident, that 50,000 Rand, which from when I drove out the dealership, that the vehicle has lost in worth, I still owe my finance company that amount, right? The full 500 grand. So, sorry, I owe the finance company 500 grand. I drive out, now the vehicle is 450 grand. But I still owe the finance company 500 grand. That 50 grand is going to be covered on credit shortfall.
Correct. The other thing is sometimes people carry finance over from one transaction to another.
True.
And it actually, if you look at it, if I drive out of the dealership, I bought the car for 300,000. But if I go look at my principal debt amount, that is sitting at 420 because that includes all your interest and all the additional fees that they don't tell you about. And so I'm in a hole for 120,000 Rand. Yeah. Who has 120,000 Rand lying around to just settle? So credit shortfall cover is very important. The one thing to bear in mind is often the finance houses added on to your finance deal, to your vehicle finance deal. So just check with the F&I, the finance and insurance person at the dealership, whether they've included that, and get a quote from your broker to see whether who's cheaper. But please make sure you have that. I've recently had a case where we've had a client who did not select it, and they're in a bit of a pickle.
Beautiful. I think another thing to think about is car hire. So very important to understand this. Car hire is often an insurable event. It's not like, oh, now you're going to get car hire whenever you want.
Right? Car's going for a service this week. Please can I have car hire? No.
It doesn't work like that. It works that if, God forbid, you're in an accident, all right, and the vehicle now has to go for panel beating.
Or the vehicle has been stolen.
Same. So it's an insurable event. Yeah. Okay. Not a mechanical breakdown or anything like that. And you don't have a car to drive. You don't have a car to drive. That is when it is important, A, to have car hire, B, to check what type of car. Yeah. Some people on their licenses can only drive automatic cars, but on the insurance policies, I see manuals. Okay, yeah. So very important to make sure it's the correct car hire. And then I would say those are two very, very important things when it comes to car hire.
The other things that are important is the duration.
That was C.
You can have 30, well, most insurers, it's 30, 60, or 90 days. In our world, it's 30, 45, or 60 days. Now, you may look at it and say 60 days is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I personally drove a Cherry for a while. Cherry parts, ridiculous to come by. There's no way, if I was in an accident, and thank goodness I wasn't, but there's no way that my vehicle would have been able to go in for repairs, be finalized, fully repaired within 30 days based on part availability on its own. Yeah. So if I had taken car hire, I would have been out of a car for a good couple of weeks because part availability for my vehicle just wasn't there. And that happens more often than you think. Part availability is a big issue in our country at the moment, and we see it all the time. So I would urge people, yes, it is a little bit more, but look at 45 or 60 days.
Yeah. I love that.
The other option that is included that people either don't know about or don't think about is the type of car. You mentioned that you can have manual or automatic, but you can also have executive cars where they give you, like you drive an M2 sport or competition or whatever, you can have the likes of a BMW or a Mercedes, or you can have an LDV, which is a double cab. So you've got a bakkie, they can give you a bakkie, and you pay for those, but it's nice to know you have those options available.
One thing, Liné, which actually came up in the real world for me, which is worth mentioning. If a client, some of you out there have policies with various vehicles on the policy, okay? So you might have 6 vehicles on your policy for your wife, husband, children, whatever it is. There might be some logic to think, okay, let me get one car hire on one of the vehicles, because what are the chances of all my vehicles being crashed or whatever at the same time? It's very important. The car hire is per vehicle.
Correct.
So you can't claim the car hire on let's say a Honda if the car hire is connected to a Mercedes.
Yeah, it is per vehicle. And you can play around with the options there. Like, say, for instance, you never drive the Honda, so leave 30 days on that.
Correct.
Or you can play around with it.
But it is
car specific. The other thing that people rely on is people think, I don't need car hire because the repairers have courtesy cars. They used to. We deal with repairers all the time, and I tell you, the number of repairers that actually have courtesy vehicles available is almost none. So don't rely on that. That is something that is definitely far outdated. And if they do, the insurance on that and the excesses linked to that, they're absolutely ridiculous.
100%. One last thing I would like to just add, which is a nice option for the vehicle, which we as a brokerage do offer, is tire and rim cover. It is important to know on majority of insurance policies, it does not come standard with the policy to cover tire and rims.
Yeah, it works. It's quite a tricky one actually, because most insurers will look at it and say, okay, cool, you've driven into a pothole and you've only damaged the tire. Mm-hmm. If you've only damaged the tire, they're not going to pay for that tire. If you've damaged the rim or the vehicle at the same time, then they'll pay for the tire. Sure. So it's quite a tricky one, and a lot of people think, well, look, my insurer is screwing me.
Yeah.
No, that's specific things. The insurers have for so long paid for the government's failure to maintain, and financially it's just not viable anymore. So they have to put limitations like this in place, but luckily we have solutions.
Correct. And that's why, again, speak to your broker, insurer, whatever it is, and ask about these options, because it will come up and it is very important. Liné, one thing I want to ask you maybe before we end off is claim stage. Maybe you can just walk me very briefly through, okay, I'm a client at a brokerage or an insurer. What is the general claim stage and what can I expect when it comes to a claim?
Well, okay, let me run you through our process, because it's the easiest way for us to talk to. We require a couple of things. So when you have an accident, if the accident's on a public road, the insurer will require that you get a case number from the police. Please obtain all the information of the third party involved in the accident, if there is one. It is very important.
Sorry to interrupt. If there's no third party, do you still need a SAPS number?
Absolutely. Okay. If it happened on a public road, you need a SAPS number.
Okay.
Then, get all the details of the third party. And the reason that is important is it plays a massive factor in your loss ratio if you are not at fault. Because the insurer then goes, we'll settle your claim so long, you're going to pay your excess, do all of that. But then in the background, we're going to go after the third party's insurer or the third party to try and recover the money we've spent because our client was not at fault. And that, then let's say the insurer spent 30,000 Rand on your claim. It means your loss ratio has gone up. Okay, now we take 20,000 that we were able to recover from the third party and we take it off the 30,000. So your loss ratio is only affected by 10,000 Rand as opposed to a full 30,000 Rand. So third party details is exceptionally important.
Okay, so God forbid, I have an accident. I call you as my broker. What are you going to tell me, like on the spot? I need a SAPS number, pictures,
as many as you can.
Okay. Licenses?
Absolutely.
So license
and
the
make
license
sure that the licenses are valid. Please, people, don't drive on the road without a valid license. The insurers will not pay claims if there is not a valid license.
Perfect. What about towing?
Towing, very important. So most insurers include accidental towing or accident-related towing in their policies. Phone your broker and ask them to appoint somebody to assist you. So we have service providers who are appointed by the insurers that we use. They will authorize. You're gonna get assaulted by these tow truck drivers going, I'm gonna tow your vehicle, I'm gonna tow you. No. Hang 10. Which company are you from? Dear broker, I've got John here who is from ABC Towing. Is he on the panel? We will speak to our service providers and say, our client needs assistance. There's John from ABC there, and they will then speak to you and say, listen, John is not on the panel, but Peter, who is there from XYZ, is on the panel. He will tow your vehicle. They will then tow your vehicle to the nearest repairer that is panel approved for the insurer. And then you get to the point where you need to complete the claim form. Always please ensure the claim forms are completed as complete as possible. And then generally the claim is registered. If you need car hire because your vehicle is not drivable, we'll arrange car hire. An assessor is appointed who will meet up with you and assess the vehicle, assess the damage and the values attached to that, following which the vehicle is then approved to go to a repairer or a right of instruction is given, and then the claim is finalized.
Thank you. So I must just add one point on the claim process is we need to be patient. We need to understand it is a process. Understand, first of all, God forbid, if an accident happens, it's horrendous, it's horrible. But if you have a broker, please call your broker straight away. I can't tell you how many clients get invoices from towing companies, whatever it is, because it's just the reality. They do hand you, you're in a terrible space because you just had an accident and you just like don't know what to do. So that's when your broker, like we discussed last time, is so important. But it is a process. It takes time. But if you have a good broker and someone who cares for you, they manage that system properly. They manage all the paperwork, and in a reasonable time, it should be sorted out. And again, if the underwriting was done correctly, if when you went to the dealership or from a second-hand person, bought that car, but you spoke to your broker and you discussed everything we just spoke about, you have nothing to worry about. Your claim should be paid out.
Absolutely. It is essential that you have the relationship with your broker, and your broker has a team of people who will be able to assist you. That's the beautiful thing about dealing with a broker. You're not going to phone a call center, and every time you phone to follow up, you're speaking to a different person. You have to explain your story all over again and then not get feedback. We have a dedicated motor claim specialist on our team who comes from the motor industry, knows when panel beaters or assessors are trying to pull the wool over our eyes, and fights for the clients, keeps them updated, and does a phenomenal job. So a broker is key in this portion.
I love it. I think just to summarize very quickly what we spoke about in my own words, and then maybe if anything I'll leave out, please insert. But when it comes to a vehicle, we know you're excited. It's awesome. There's nothing better than buying a new vehicle. But please speak to your broker. If it's us, we're going to send you a vehicle needs analysis. It might be a bit annoying, but it's going to ask all the correct questions, whether it's security, whether it's any extras on the vehicle, what kind of cover you want on the vehicle, etc., etc. And that is so important so that when claim comes, we know that the vehicle is properly covered. As Liné said, if you need to be on cover straight away for whatever reason, it can be done, but then within 7 days, let's make sure that the vehicle needs analysis is completed properly. Again, we live in South Africa. There are infrastructure issues. There are so many ways to cut it when it comes to adding specific cover to your vehicle, such as tire and rim cover. Anything I've left out?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Just make sure, double check, double cross, make everything is correct. Make sure if you need credit shortfall, if you added it. Make sure you add roadside assistance if you need it. Just take the time. I know you want to go drive and enjoy your new baby, but just make sure, because one tick on a form can make the difference between your claim being paid, your claim not being paid, or you being out of pocket for a portion where you shouldn't be.
Thank you, Liné. Well, guys, I think that brings us to the end.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thanks
if you've watched the full thing. Yeah,
we appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it.
And we look forward to seeing you soon. And listen, if you need advice, you want to speak to a broker, you want somebody to look at your policy, please hit one of us up. Our emails are in the description below. Drop us comments and questions for, if you have any questions on the topic, or if there's 100%. Anything specific you want to see in the next episode, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer those questions and help you where we can. That's ultimately what we're here to do, is we're here to help you.
Like, comment,
subscribe, and hit the bell notification so they get notified when we drop our next episode.
See you next time.
Have a lekker one. The views and information shared in this podcast are provided for general information and educational purpose only, and do not constitute advice, guidance, or recommendations as contemplated under the FAYS Act of South Africa. Any insurance decisions should be based on your specific financial needs, risk profile, and individual circumstances. we encourage listeners to seek personalized advice from a licensed financial services provider, their insurer, or their broker before making any changes to their insurance arrangements.